Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to another ECLA Online Learning Center session. My name is Martin. I am the legal project manager at ECLA, based in Brussels. And today we are excited to welcome Nolia to talk in depth about something that corporate lawyers are deeply interested in, which is KPIs for legal departments. I would like to note that if you have any questions for the speakers, feel free to use the chat box on the bottom right corner. And without further ado, Sean, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Martin. Welcome everyone to our second session this year, organized by Nolia about KPIs for legal departments. I'm very happy to see that we have participants this time from all over the world. We had more than 216 subscriptions from more than 35 different countries. So welcome everyone. We have organized also a lot of webinars last year and also one this year about the digital workplace. Weren't you able to attend? Please visit our website to rewatch them and also to keep an eye on all our webinars that are coming up soon. But I would like to introduce you to today's digital legal experts. Some of you might already know them, but for others, there might be still some strangers. So please, Hans van Hegen and Yves Levert, can you quickly introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Sean. Good morning, everybody. I'm Hans van Hegen. I'm the CEO and founder of Nolia. And as such, I'm over 22 years busy with information management, knowledge management, and more specifically for legal teams, legal departments.
Good morning and good afternoon for some others, since we have people from all over the world. Welcome. My name is Yves Lefebvre. I'm Chief Commercial Officer within Nolia, and I have been working together with legal departments across the globe since the past 10 years. So we'll be more than happy to share our experiences here together with Hans on our experiences with legal departments and more specifically on KPIs.
Thank you very much. Can you tell us a little bit more about Nolia as well?
Yes. Yes, thank you, Sean. So very briefly, who is Nolia? Nolia is a Belgian software company, and we offer a software platform for enterprise legal management, which is based on artificial intelligence solutions, and that for small, medium, and large-sized legal departments, as well as their stakeholders. It's no longer a platform only for legal people. It's a platform for the entire organization, specifically for enterprise legal management. And we have been working together with customers and users spread around the globe, and have been recognized again recently and referenced by Gartner as being a reference player in the market when it comes to enterprise legal management and corporate legal matter management.
Okay, thank you very much, Yves, for the context of the company Nolia. So why are these two digital legal experts here today is to share their view and knowledge on KPIs in legal departments. It's a topic where there has been a lot of written about already. There might be also a lot of questions going on in the head of the audience about KPIs, but we're going to or trying to provide a pragmatic approach on implementing legal KPIs in your organization. So Yves and Hans will share all the knowledge and expertise that they have built up in the last couple of years about the topic. But please don't hesitate, as Martin already mentioned, to ask your questions in the chat box below. And we'll kick off as well in this webinar to define what are specifically KPIs, how to set up KPIs in your legal department, in your environment, what are examples of the most used KPIs, and also what's next after hearing all these relevant insights and information. We also dig deep in the more practical approach on KPIs, introducing that into your organization. So now I give the floor to ourselves and to you as well, because we're going to ask you today, are you monitoring KPIs? So if you say yes, we're monitoring them successfully, fill it in. If you're not sure, we have a lot of other options to answer as well. So we're very curious on how you are organizing your KPIs in your legal department today. So I'm going to start the poll right now. please let the experts know how are you doing it today. Okay, I see the first answers coming in. It's switching quite a lot.
And it's actually going to be a good intersection or a good analysis of the entire market, since we have really people from so many countries across the globe. So it's good to have an insight that is summarizing all those different types of legal departments in different industries and different countries.
Indeed, Yves. Okay, I think everyone who wanted to answer put their answers in. Yes, okay, so I'm going to end the poll and have a little look on it as well. All right, and what do we see? Yeah, okay. Are you monitoring KPIs today? A lot of people say no, but planning to work on it this year. Also no, but we are aware that we should. It's more a long-term plan. So I think the people who are in this webinar today are going to learn quite a lot. Can I ask the experts about their vision on these answers? Hans, are you surprised?
Yes, a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, or quite a bit.
Okay.
If I can count it quickly, 68% says no and is planning to do so or should do so.
Indeed.
And only 6%, 6.5% is doing it successfully. Now, probably those who are successful on the topic do not attend to the webinar. But it's a little bit surprising, yes.
Okay, and what do you think, Yves?
Well, on the one hand, yes, it's surprising, but on the other hand, the reason why this webinar, for example, it has that much attention and so many people are enrolling is the fact that legal departments often don't have a clue where to start, what KPIs to monitor, how to monitor them, which one of them are interesting for management, etc. So that's what this webinar is all about. So I'm not that astonished that so many people are not doing it or not doing it properly, and definitely planning to do so. So we are convinced that we will be able to assist you in the first steps to take in KPI monitoring and management of them.
Okay, great to hear. Thank you all for answering, and thank you, digital legal experts, for giving your view on the question as well. But let's kick off. What is a KPI specifically?
Yes, so KPIs, it's something that has been existing for a long time, of course, but they serve to measure and to evaluate the ratio of success of an organization. Not only of a department, it's more to measure the success of the entire organization, and the legal department, of course, has its contribution to the targets and the objectives of the entire organization, and you need to have KPIs to monitor the goals that you have in your organization. I'll maybe switch to the next slide. Hans, can you elaborate a little bit more on the examples of KPIs?
Well, those are the 6 most appearing types of KPIs. For example, process KPI measures the efficiency or productivity of a business process. So think about the days that you need to deliver a draft contract or a legal advice. Input KPI, they measure assets and resources invested or used to generate a certain business result. Think about the number of days or external costs to finalize a contract negotiation or an M&A negotiation. Where output KPIs measure the financial and non-financial results of a business activity. So the number of advices that you passed on to the business or the number of contracts that you finalize. Time-based KPIs are measuring elapsed periods of an activity. For example, what's the elapsed time on an IP case or legal advice or things like that. Leading KPIs measure activities that have a significant effect on future performance. Think about the number of predefined intelligent contracts. So the more intelligent templates you have, the less you need to do reactive reviews for your business colleagues. And then there is also very important qualitative KPIs. They are rather an opinion, a feeling that, for example, how happy are your business colleagues with your advice and the services you deliver to them.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more very briefly on the, sorry, scene. I am also switching slides here. Very briefly on the definition, because it's important to understand what is a KPI to be able to understand how to start making a definition for your own in your organization and start monitoring and start managing it. So KPIs also, this is not new, but it needs to be smart and never forget it. And it's very easy to check if your KPI is smart. And smart means that the measure has to have a specific purpose for the business. If not, it doesn't make any sense. And the business is for your entire organization. It needs to be measurable, and measurable means that you as a legal department, without having to be an engineer, you are able or capable, with supportive tools, of course, to measure, to get the real value of the KPI. And the defined norms that you will put up front need to be achievable. If not, again, it makes no sense. It needs to be run through the legal department. It needs to be checked with management, with the organization. Is this KPI achievable? And then, of course, the improvement of a KPI. So if you monitor the KPI, it must be relevant to the success of the organization. Again, if it's not contributing to the business, to the organization in its whole, it doesn't make any sense to monitor the KPI, because then you're just monitoring numbers. And finally, it must be time-phased, which means the value or the outcomes are shown for a predefined and relevant period, so that you can measure it within a period and that you can monitor it across periods of time. Also, watch out for pitfalls. We have seen so many legal departments trying to start monitoring KPIs, but always come across the same pitfalls. And it's not only for legal departments; it's in other departments as well. But you can have the pitfall of having too many KPIs to monitor. We're going to cover immediately a set of KPIs that are monitorable, but it doesn't mean monitor them all. Pick and choose the ones that are relevant to your team, to your legal department, and definitely to your organization, which do make sense, which are measurable, and that can be different for many organizations. You have legal departments, organizations that only have a few litigation in their company a year, or maybe across years. So it doesn't make any sense to put all your KPIs measuring litigation. But on the other hand, if you have lots of litigation with lots of costs involved, it will make a lot of sense to set KPIs based on litigation. Make sure that you have a very clear definition, of course, that the costs involved are measurable as well, and that it all makes sense, that you don't start monitoring just to monitor. If it doesn't contribute to the business and to the organization and the involvement of the organization and the overall goals of the organization, because you need to report to your general management, if it doesn't contribute to that, it doesn't make any sense to start monitoring it. So please be aware that there are pitfalls, and it's just a matter of a little preparation to make sure that you don't come across them.
Thank you, Yves. Now, first important message for legal teams is your intention with KPIs. KPIs are for most managers or directors as a controlling mechanism. So a mechanism is to stretch the minimum performance of a team or a department and to increase the performance year after year. So from a certain perspective, that controlling view is correct. But specifically for legal, I should say, you have the opportunity for a more positive view. It's an opportunity to sell the importance of legal within the complete organization. It's to share with your business colleagues on the importance of the legal team on risk reduction, service levels, contracts, advices, and so on. So it's not just a control, but it's also a mean to make clear how important you are for the organization. And the importance is growing each year since legislation, risks, everything becomes more complex. Now, how do you set up KPI in an organization? Basically, you have 4 main phases. It's about determining the most critical areas, how you want to monitor and measure them, and to define your expected performance levels. And then, with the results, look how to analyze and improve. So basically, first figure out what you want to measure, what's important for your legal department. Second, determine what information you have and that can be used for the measurements. You need a format, a presentation, a dashboard. And also important to mention is don't communicate all your KPIs. Some of your KPIs are very useful for the broad organization. Some of them are only relevant for your legal team to improve operations, for example. And some might be hidden for you only as manager of the legal team, that you measure a number of things, but that you don't share. It's not an obligation to share all your KPIs with everybody at any moment. Now, if we dive into those little steps, what is important to measure in your legal department? Well, look to the domains that you are active in. Not all the legal departments are involved, for example, in IP management or in litigations or in governance, compliance monitoring. So first look to what are the essentials of what you are doing as a team, and then look how you can make clear your objectives related to that, what you want to achieve. Once you have your objectives and you're related to your activities, the next step is about defining. Remember what Yves was telling about SMART. It's very important that they are measurable and that they are relevant. So then you can define your KPIs, but also take the time to review against the listed pitfalls. Avoid to make the same mistakes we and other colleagues did in the past. So really take the time to review against those pitfalls. And once that is done, you can define your targets. Don't be too meticulous on defining your targets because they will evolve in time. You need to build an experience how well things are working and not working, and how you should expand your targets in time. Third element is about measuring and presenting. So you can opt for dashboards, you can opt for reports, timely reports. Also the remark on what to keep secret, what to keep in the team, and what to share with the organization. And also the reflection on what are controlling KPIs and what are selling KPIs for your team. And the fourth element is about analyze and improve. Measuring is knowing, but if you don't make that step of evaluating, analyzing your numbers, your figures, you miss 50% of the value of KPIs. It's not only about controlling and selling, but it's also about analyzing and improving your current operations. And therefore, you need to analyze, reflect with the team, and define actions in order to improve your situation. Now, the 5 most appearing domains are those 5 about internal efficiency, service levels, compliance to regulation, risk mitigation, and success on litigations. But in most cases, they do not appear all at the same time or in the same degree within an organization. Yves, maybe you can have a little bit more details on each of them.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Hans. So the purpose of the next slides here is to share with you now the most used KPIs that we come across, but we also advise and that we see coming back in the tools we are using. I've also seen a question in the chat about somebody who asks about the Workers' Council, because if you're monitoring KPIs of people, you should have their approval. That's true, but the KPIs that we're talking about here are not based on KPIs related to individual performance. These are KPIs on the performance and the strategy of the legal department within the strategy of the organization. So they are not directly linked to individuals, which is quite important in that context. But it's a specific topic that we can definitely cover outside this webinar. So internal efficiency, you see here 3 KPIs that are most used: the average processing time per matter, the deadline compliance, and the proactivity compliance. Proactivity means the changing, and this is something that we really see actually within legal departments across the globe, the changing from a reactive department towards a proactive department, meaning that you give the right and better and more advice internally to your internal customers, to those who need it most, so that you can avoid litigation and avoid costs, of course, as well. This is perfectly measurable and has a very high value for the legal department, but also for the entire organization when it comes to cost monitoring. When it comes to service levels to the business, also 3 KPIs that are most used is the number of answers delivered. And of course, those KPIs that you're monitoring are brought together then in the objective or the goal that you set for the legal department. The average time reviewing a contract, which is also a very important one, and the number of wiki articles available used. When we talk about wiki articles, that means the knowledge that the legal department has, the expertise that the legal department has as an offering to its internal clients. So the other colleagues, how can they make sure that they are advised properly, that they have the necessary information available? Specific toolings support you in the management and the creation of such wiki articles that then are automatically made available to the entire business through portals, etc. When it comes to compliance to regulation, in a broader view on GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, which is a major topic within legal departments and also in the offering that tools can bring to it. 3 KPIs that are mostly used: is it applicable? Are the applicable regulation? Are the applicable regulations monitored? And you need to know, of course, which ones are and which are necessary to monitor and which are measurable, of course. What is the number of identified non-compliances, and what is the total number of corporate investigations? Also something that is easily monitorable, but you need to imply your business stakeholders or your internal clients through, again, a centralized portal that is integrated with their way of working. When it comes to risk mitigation, of course, very high on the agenda of general management for the entire organization is measuring the number of applicable risk domains. It's about the number of early warning signals. Early warnings means making sure that you can prevent any risk by detecting on a textual level what's happening, what's being discussed, what's being written, what's being answered, what's being advised. If you have intelligent software that can monitor this, it can detect potential risks and send out early warnings to the management, making sure that you can prevent litigation, that you can prevent costs and prevent risks for the entire organization. And then, of course, the numbers of risk mitigation actions that is taken by the legal department can be monitored as well. And then you have the last domain is the success on litigation. I hope you guys don't have too many litigation, but in certain industries, in certain companies, there are many litigations, so it needs to be managed properly, and you need to set KPIs on it. It's first of all the number of litigations, of course, and see the involvement in it. Are they going down? Are they going up? And why? It's the litigation success ratio, and if you have lost litigations, what is the value of it? So these are KPIs that are actually measurable and achievable.
Okay, thank you very much, Yves. Yves mentioned quite a lot of KPIs, so now we're also very curious, after hearing all the insights about them as well, which one have your highest priority? So I'm going to start a live poll. Please take your time. You can see all the different options and note which one is the most important one. I have to open them. Here we go. The poll is loading. Oh. Okay, yes, now you can start selecting your most highest priorities in KPIs.
Maybe a small remark here as well. So this is a list of 15 KPIs that are smart, but that doesn't mean that you as an organization, as a legal department, need to monitor them all. This is depending on the industry that you're active in, depending on the legislation that you're operating under, depending on the type of activities, etc. So, but this is a good set of KPIs to monitor the performance of the legal department, but also the productivity, the risk mitigation, and everything that is related to that.
I see that a lot of people are still answering, so we'll keep the poll open for a couple of minutes left. Okay, the last couple of seconds are counting. Okay, I've noticed that no one is still answering, so I'm going to end the poll and we can have a look at the results. Okay. Here we go. Which is the most important one? I can see that proactivity, compliance, and from the internal efficiency is most important. Also the other two, deadline compliance, average processing time per matter. And there are also a couple of KPIs that people didn't select, like most regarding the litigation. So experts, what are your thoughts about these results?
Can I, Hans?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is not surprising. So the most answers are given for KPIs around efficiency. Every discussion that we have with legal departments, whether it's in Europe or in the States or wherever, we receive a lot of feedback on the fact that the legal department is struggling with the proof of activity. What are you guys doing? How come that you are all overworked? How come that you don't have enough resources to do what you have to do? So most of organizations do not always understand what a legal department is actually doing. So KPIs then serve as a proof of activity and a proof of contribution to the goals and objectives of the entire organization. And that's also a reason why it's so important to have the right KPIs to monitor them. And the one that is most successful here in monitoring is the actual proactivity compliance to proactivity, meaning that you want to switch from a reactive department to a proactive department. What I explained before, that is something that we encounter as a challenge within many organizations, but it is really and actually easily monitorable and manageable, and in a very automated way as well. So we're going to cover that immediately.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we'll move on during this presentation.
So we have, in conjunction with those 15 first most used, most appearing KPIs, in order to complete, we listed a number of extra KPIs that you can define, that you can use as a kind of inspiration. And we added also the domain of IP management, because some industries are also active in intellectual property. Now, if we look to internal efficiency, you can measure a lot. If you start at the bottom, for example, the number of pending matters per legal professional, up to total cost of a service or total cost per internal client, internal departments. So you can measure a lot based on your legal matters system, enterprise legal management system. So efficiency, most of the times, easy to measure. Now, next to efficiency is also important is your service levels. Now, if I combine service levels and internal efficiency, there's an example of a customer in the domain of production of machines and the services around. For them, the proactivity compliance is very important, because it's not only a way to measure the shift from reactive to proactive, but it's also a way to identify those departments that need some extra internal trainings, internal advice, because proactivity is measured based on the number of advices compared to the number of litigations. Now, if you have a department with a low number of advices and a high number of litigations, you know that they are reluctant in asking advice from the legal team. So you know that you need to train them extra, small training, small communications, so that they are triggered coming to the legal team, that they are triggered to follow legal trainings. And that customer in particular, they had a legal professional leaving in 2019. There was a hire freeze, so they were not allowed to hire an extra legal professional. It resulted already quite quickly into more litigations and more external lawyer costs. Service levels to the business were decreasing, so business was more unhappy. And so they hired a legal person, and already quite quickly the KPIs evolved again in a positive way. So KPI on proactivity, it makes me happy, because it's something that we are preaching since more than 10, 15 years, that legal needs to become more proactive instead of reactive. If you look to another type of examples is compliance on regulation. Again, a long list of items. The same or less applicable is on risk mitigation. Maybe another example on risk mitigation is an IT service organization, and they are imposed with counterparty contracts. So only in 5% of their contracts they can use their own template. So in order to do risk mitigation, they developed a risk analysis procedure together with the contract. With negotiating and signing the contract, they do that risk analysis, and they are measuring elements on back-to-back indexing, IP management, and stuff like that. And based on those risk analysis, they fill in, we calculate then a number of KPIs related to risk mitigation on contracts. Litigations are well known. Again, on litigations, it's quite easy to measure things. IP management is something different, but maybe a last example of another customer is a logistics company. And there they have only 3 KPIs, or 3 important domains of KPIs. First of all is don't miss deadlines for your business colleagues. On your service levels, on making your business colleagues very happy, time is very important. The second one is again on proactivity. And the third one is on M&A costs versus benefits in risk and liabilities. So with those couple of examples, you see there is a line, there is a common denominator in those KPIs, but at the same time, they are quite different based on the fact they are totally different businesses. That one is on IP management, things that you can measure and get out of systems. So if you can tell a little bit more on.
Of course. Thank you, Hans. The next part we would like to cover is how you can actually monitor them. Is it possible to monitor them? Do you need to do it manually? Do you need to do it? Can it be done automatically? And is it achievable? So you will need tools in any case, or a tool to measure those KPIs. And always keep in mind, not too many. They need to be achievable. They need to be smart, of course, and they need to contribute to the business. If not, it doesn't make any sense to report them to your general management, because they won't have any message with the KPI that you're monitoring, and they will certainly not be able to do anything about with the KPI, with the overall goals of the company. So going back to the 5 domains of most relevant KPIs, every domain, so there are 5 of them, every domain has 3 KPIs that are relevant and smart and contributing to the business. As you can see here, 3 of the internal efficiency KPIs are you are able to automatically monitor them. So automatically present them in a dashboard based on your day-to-day activity, of course. The deadline compliance, that needs to be, there needs to be an interaction by somebody who registers the actual deadline, of course, when the compliance has been met. When we move to the service levels to the business, as you can see, the 3 KPIs, smart KPIs that we put forward here are perfectly monitorable, manageable, or completely automated through the right tools, of course, and the right platform that allows you to capture the data, assemble the data, and present it in a readable, in a dashboard that is readable, that is understandable, and which you can actually use to report to your peers and to your general management. When it comes to compliance regulation, again, 2 out of the 3 KPIs that we put forward here are automatically measurable and monitorable. One needs registration of the user, and that is to see which applicable regulations that need to be monitored, that needs to be registered, of course, by a person, by somebody who has the authority to do so. When it comes to risk mitigation, the KPIs that are smart, that are contributing to the business, to the overall goals of your organization, are measurable and manageable in an entirely automated way if, again, you have the right platform to capture the right data, capture the right information that is centralized across your decentralized department, probably, of your legal department, and the internal stakeholders that are also contributing to the data and the information. Which brings us to the last domain, success on litigation. Again, if you have the right toolings, you have the possibility to automate the monitoring and the management of those KPIs, bringing it together in a dashboard, making able to actually have a management tool that will allow you to have a better performance, have more productivity, be more efficient, have less risk, and reduce your costs, which is eventually one of the main goals in many cases within the organization. And let's all be honest, the message that you receive from general management is not necessarily that you receive more resources. In the contrary, you have to do more with less people. So it's very important to have the right KPIs to monitor, to be able to prove your performance, but also maybe to explain why you need extra resources or not, based on actually smart KPIs that allow you to defend and to have your business case for your management. Now, how could it look like? Hans will immediately explain how such a dashboard of the KPIs that you choose to be smart for your organization, how could it look like within a tool?
Numbers are just numbers, and most legal professionals don't like numbers. So half of your communication, or even more, is in your packaging. When you want to defend, a nice graphic is always nicer than just listing numbers or tables to somebody. So think about packaging. Think about how can you indicate time evolutions? How can you indicate the difference between the departments that you are serving? How can you overall give indications on where you are as a team, as a department? So that packaging can have different forms. This is one with meters and bar charts. You can have other types, tables, graphs on evolutions, and so on. So it's quite flexible in today's IT, in today's reporting tools. If you have the basic numbers of your measurements from an ELM system, like, for example, Knowliah's, then it's easy to construct dashboards like this. Now, after the dashboards, after the numbers, there is the final step. Remember the 4 steps we indicated in the beginning: defining what is important, what are your objectives of your team. Secondly, what can you measure? Third, how can you present, and what will you share and what will you keep secret? Fourth step is about analyzing and improving. To do so, you need, of course, something like an evaluation. An evaluation on what is not met, what is easily met, what is important and impact for the organization, and then together with the team, detect your root causes, detect the origins of why overperforming, why underperforming, why people are less happy about certain areas or not. And once you made that analysis and that evaluation, you can then start to improve. But in improving, it's more than just defining actions. Legal services within an organization is not a simple set of processes. It's a complete system with dependencies, with relations to each other. And as a legal, you are one of the maybe only profiles within an organization that has a complete view on the operations, because you work with HR, you work with logistics, with manufacturing, with production, with after sales, with sales, you work with all departments. So you are also sensible to those dependencies. Take that into account when you are trying to define your improvements for your organizations. And since you cannot do everything at once, you need to prioritize. And prioritization is for me an easy exercise. It's based on what is useful for the organization. And useful is a balance between effort to achieve and results that you will achieve. So look to your prioritization from a usefulness perspective.
Okay, thank you very much, Hans and Yves. I've noticed a question in the chat box.
Yes.
It's from Donovan. about how would you suggest to get started if you lack those tools, like for example Nolia. So can you please help him out?
Well, I've seen the question indeed. That's actually a very good one, because that also reflects the reason why a lot of you during the webinar in the first poll, you indicated that you're not doing anything on KPI monitoring, but that you're planning to do. The reason why you're not doing anything is probably because you're lacking of a supporting tool, an overall tool that supports you in the monitoring and the capturing of the data to monitor those KPIs. Because if you don't, it's very hard. If you indeed need to manually start asking your colleagues in different countries, in different departments to support you and to deliver you the data and the information that you need to be able to monitor your KPI, it becomes a real burden, and it becomes almost a full-time job. If you're in an international organization with a very decentralized department, and certainly in the pandemic situation in which we are today, where everybody is physically very decentralized, so a supporting tool is very important, and doesn't necessarily have to be a very complex fact. So a supporting tool can be easily introducible and can be supporting your stakeholders as well. So having nothing and trying to start measuring KPIs, it is obviously possible, but that will depend on the culture of your organization.
And you need to see it as a kind of growth process. Basically, you have still legal departments working on paper and with Excels and file folder structures. First step in becoming digital is centralizing that, is growing towards an enterprise legal management tool, is becoming more proactive instead of reactive with the business with predefined documents templates. And the next level in your growth of becoming a digital legal team is defining KPIs and using them to improving. So it's clear that if you are still at the first step, it will be very hard to implement KPIs, although you can make some measurements. If you limit yourself to 3, 4, and they are easy registerable, measurable, then you can integrate already KPIs when you still don't have, but see it as a logical growth path in maturity of becoming digital and legal team.
Okay, thank you very much, Hans and Yves. So what's next for you guys, for our audience? If you have any more questions regarding your KPI plans, or you want to discuss this topic further with Hans, please don't hesitate to reach out to them. You can see his email address in the presentation. Or are you curious about how Nolia can help you with your KPI challenges? It's a software tool, ELM tool, as Yves already mentioned before, with a lot of advantages to digitalize the legal department. So don't hesitate to reach out to Yves as well. His email address is also mentioned on the presentation. But of course, if you have now some questions on top of your mind, please, we give you like 30 seconds, 1 minute left. Ask all your questions right now in the chat box, and then our experts will answer them right away. We don't see immediately some questions coming in or some people who are typing. So if you need more time to reflect on this topic and on these insights, please do so, and don't hesitate to contact us after this webinar as well. But for us, it's also very important to hear from you guys how useful was this webinar for you. So please give us a score. I'm going to open the poll in a couple of seconds. If you give us a 1, that it means that it was not useful at all. Do you give us like 5 stars? That means that this webinar was very useful for you. For us, it's a very good way to improve our upcoming webinars as well. So I'm going to start the 3rd poll. Here we go. So please leave your answer behind. I think the experts are also very curious what the outcome will be. I can already.
We also have KPIs seen and we want to improve them.
Yes, I know. So, okay, a lot of people are answering. That's good to see. And please be honest, of course. It's the only way for us to improve. All right. I don't see anyone answering anymore. So last call, please give us your very valuable feedback. Okay, there are some answers coming in. All right, then I'm going to end the poll. Now, that's a very good score. We're very happy with this. No one answered 1, which means that it was for no one not useful at all. We have some 5s, we have some 4s. So thank you very much for this very valuable feedback. Also, Hans, Yves, that's a great applause for you guys because all the insights were very interesting for the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for your attendance and your interest. And as we mentioned before at the beginning of this webinar, we're still organizing a lot of other webinars with ECLA together this year. So keep an eye on their website and also on the website of Nolia. And please don't be a stranger after this webinar as well. Stay in touch with us. You can see our phone number, the general email address. You can visit our website or connect on LinkedIn with us. Thank you very much. And now we give the floor back to Martin.
Thank you, Sien. Thank you, Hans, and thank you, Yves. I think the scores reflect on the quality of the sessions that you have provided us as well, and then we are very happy to host another session with you again soon. We will be updating our schedule pretty shortly, so I do suggest participants to check out their website within the next week. In the meanwhile, we will be having another webinar on legal operations exactly a week from now at 11 as well, so next Tuesday. So we do hope that a lot of you will join us there as well. And then again, thank you very much to Sien, Hans, and Yves for a fascinating session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
See you next time.
And have a very nice rest of the day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.